All right, welcome back to the $100 million virtual information workshop. So yesterday we just really were looking into the question of the first question, more. Why not more? How can we do more? More is better. But quantity begets quality. You'll get better over time. It's the most risk adjusted bet. What else we got? Just more and more and more. Why not more? Do more before you do anything else. I don't know how many notes we probably took a lot of notes. Right, more ads, more content, more outreach ads, more creative, more ad spend, more core four really. More ad, more outreach, more organic, more content. It's pretty interesting. I like the sentiment, the pottery example, the pottery class, that the group that did more work ended up with better products, better quality in the end. What else do we got? The black box thing. I thought that was a pretty interesting analogy or like thought or like way to look at business. It's basically you take raw attention, you put it into your black box, aka business, and you get out money. So really like marketing and attention drives the entire business or production of profit. The business just converts the attention into profit. Right. Volatility is a sign of inconsistent volume or insufficient volume. Inconsistency, volatility, these are signs of insufficient volume. Less than $1 million a year, he said, it almost always is insufficient volume. Counting 100s, not ones. Doing more leads to getting better at those things. More core four. Consistency is the secret to do high volume, right? That's the secret. And it's hard to observe if you don't do it. Very hard to see consistency if you're not yourself consistent. The fixed cost of change. Okay, fixed cost of change. This is where Hormozi found that generally when he makes a change to something and implements something, not a change mode, when he implements something new to replace something old, it typically has a guaranteed 20% reduction in performance, at least for the first couple months when you have people involved, because they have to relearn, they have to reskill, it takes them time to adjust. So he has this minimum. He's never going to do something for a potential upside of 5% increase, because it's going to be down for 20% for the first couple months, and then gradually it might go back up to baseline and then up 5%. It's not worth the risk, especially when you're doing small things that, it takes months to get back up. Then, over here, you're like, oh, let's do another thing. And then you're back down, and then you're back down. And then, you're constantly way below baseline because you're making changes all the time for these things that aren't important enough to be making changes on. So overall, he does not make a change to something that's already working, unless it has a potential upside of at least 20%. And so kind of the overall takeaway is change less things get better over time. And only change things if they're really worth it and important, such as 20% increase potential. All right. So that's going to be, we're pretty much caught up. Let's jump back in to the video, and then I'll be back to recall in a bit. All right, guys. We worked into question 2 of the 6, or the Hormozi 6, the 4 or the 6 kind of bottlenecks, most common bottlenecks, and how to relieve it on deconstrain the business. Number 2 is metrics. So the first reason why I can't do more, well, you can't do more if you don't know what's working and you don't have your data and your numbers. And so he gave a bunch of basic things everybody should know. So I think this might actually be right up there with like more, is like getting these basic data points in a tracking system, because he said well, as far as data, and he's saying, let me take it backtrack a little bit. You got to balance the data with also your gut, because you'll always have incomplete data. Like data will never be complete, right? So a lot of the entrepreneur job is making decisions with incomplete data. And so you got to think about, is this decision reversible or is it irreversible? And if it's reversible, make decisions quickly, go quick. Facebook used to say one of their core values, move fast, break things, right? So speed of decision is really equated to or correlated or equivalent almost to the speed of the business. So it's always important to make quick decisions on things that are reversible, and the speed of your decision is also going to be related to how much data and the clarity of the data you have, because the more clear the data, the better the data, the more easily the decisions can just flow. So that's why the data is so important. And so the basic data he's talking about is leads, schedules or booked appointments, shows, closes, sales, revenue, profit, customer cost to acquire, customer lifetime gross profit, cash flow, and there was something else that I hadn't heard of, PDP or something. Anyway, I'll check in a second. So, and then the third thing after metrics, so more metrics. Those are the two most important things. Get the basics and just do more, right? If you can't do more, why? What is the third stop? Well, this is actually pretty not that important one for us, at least as an online business, but it's your market is saturated. You've saturated your market, which is only almost, he said, true if you're a local business. Otherwise, there's so many people out there, so much traffic. It's so hard to comprehend how much there is out there. So, so it's almost never a market saturation thing. You may have maybe saturated a single channel or a single element in a single channel, but there's so many different channels. There's the core four, and then within the core four, there's 50 to 100 different ways of doing one of the core four. So, yep. Okay. And so, yeah, he's going to get into more about if you're a local business tomorrow and you really think you're saturated, here's some of the ways to continue to grow. So PPD, that's the other thing I forgot. Or I said PDP, I meant PPP. I don't know what that is. Profit per something, I don't know. Oh, payback. Pay back delay. Pay PBD, PPD. Something about how fast you get paid back, I think. All right. How can you do more if you don't know what's working? All right, speed of allocation of resources is really dependent on the speed of decisions. Decisions really are just the allocation of resources. All right, job of the entrepreneur, decision makers, decisions. That's a huge part of being an entrepreneur and a leader in a business. So, all right, that's it for today. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. See you.